Hello there, guys. Welcome back to another transfer video. You guys have been asking for it, so we are going to deliver. I am here yet again alongside the connected one, the 9321, Mr. Ahsan Naeem. Ahsan, how are you doing, my friend? Welcome to Good Friday. Hopefully it's going to be a Good Friday discussion as well. You okay, man?
I'm very good. How are you, mate?
I'm looking forward to this chat. This was actually Ahsan's idea this morning, by the way, guys. Ahsan was like, Steve, we need to have a chat about Mino Raiola's Spanish tour. His little dance, his latest dance, basically, showing up for basically showing the world that he means business this summer. So I'm looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to it. It feels like a lot's happened in 24 hours, doesn't it? It feels like loads has happened. Initially, I'll quickly summarize what's going on with the world. But before I do that, I want to say, guys, if you haven't already, by the way, checked out the 9320 podcast. The logo is now on screen. Go check out the 9320 podcast. You'll find it in the link in the description below.
Go follow the Twitter account.
9320 pod. Go follow, go subscribe, and all the usual stuff. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And of course, hit the subscribe button as well if you don't want to miss out on any of these videos going forward. But today we're talking about Haaland because that dance is going to basically be in front of us for the rest for a while. I reckon it's going to be something we're going to have to get used to because there's loads of news going around. If you've not noticed from the world of Manchester City, yesterday was a busy day. He's coming, he's going, he's coming, he's going. It's already back and forth constantly, and that's going to be the case. Ahsan, man, all that news yesterday, the reports that he's not going to be sold, then he will be sold if it hits 150 million. Then Mino's going to meet everyone in Barca with Madrid, and then he's going to meet everyone today in England, apparently. But then he doesn't want Man City or anyone else, but he's meeting everyone, apparently. And apparently City are best placed. It's just so confusing. What did you make of yesterday's clusterfuck of information, to put it bluntly?
It was a classic day in the Spanish media. I think I'm really surprised at the overall reactions right across the board to Raiola and Alfie arriving in Barcelona. I think you have to look at it from their point of view. They're kind of just doing their jobs. Their job. What is their job? What is Mino Raiola's job and what is Alfie's job? Their job is to maximize what they can get for their client, Erling Haaland, right? To get the maximum from anybody, you need everybody at the table.
Yeah.
I see yesterday very differently to the way that a lot of other people see yesterday. For example, I'm pretty reliably informed that Florentino Perez was not at Madrid's offices yesterday. So I don't know who Raiola and Alfie met with. Probably one of the directors, technical, whatever they are. I think what's going on, or what happened yesterday, was the Spanish clubs basically rolling out a PR exercise because they can't be seen to be losing a player like Haaland, where Raiola loves PR, without making some type of effort. Now, I think you kind of got to look at the wider context of football and finances right now. Barcelona and Real Madrid are a little bit on their arse, right? It's hard for them to compete with the Premier League clubs. This is exactly the type of, when Tebas talks about Ronaldo leaving La Liga and Messi not leaving and how important it is for Messi to stay. This is about the value of the league and the value of the brands inside the league. Real Madrid and Barcelona, I'll say it again, for them, they're in a tight spot right now. If you look at both of their squads, they're aging. If you look at their financial situations, it's a bit more opaque at Madrid, but at Barcelona, it's very clear.
Yeah.
They are saddled with ridiculous amounts of debt and short of an other bank turning up and going, hey, you know what? We'll give you, what will they need? So they probably need 300 million immediately to pay the short-term loans that they've got, and they probably need another 300 on top of that. So they probably need 600 million for a restart project. Well, come on, there are bankers out there. There are bankers who will be watching this, who listen to the podcast. Somebody hit me up and let me know which bank is going to give Barcelona 600 million on favourable terms right now in the middle of a COVID pandemic, with the squad at the age that it's at, wage bill where it's at, money in football where it's at. No guarantee of people back in the stadiums in 2021, certainly on mainland Europe. Like, I know in England it's slightly different, but look, they're talking about we'll be lucky if we'll be vaccinated by August, September. So on that basis, I don't see how suddenly Barcelona, the new camp, will be full, or Madrid's ground will be full. So there's so much to kind of take into consideration, and that's just the financial side. And then you kind of look at the football projects, and you go, all right, so Alfie and Raiola have gone to Real Madrid. Real Madrid, where Florentino's favorite player in the squad is Karim Benzema. What position does he play in? Oh yeah, number 9. Who's been Madrid's best and most important player this season? That'll be the number 9, Karim Benzema. How long has Benzema got left on his contract? Well, he still has another year left. So my question for you, Steve, is:
yes,
were Sergio Aguero City's top scorer right now? Yeah, were he the guy that was carrying us over the line? If he still had another year on his deal to run after that, do you think that City would just throw him out after 13 years and go, see you later, mate?
What I would say, to be devil's advocate, I don't think City would. I think Real Madrid would probably do something similar to what they've done to Benzema before. And you got to bear in mind they were quite happy for him to play second fiddle to Ronaldo for an awful long time, push him out wide. So I think there's a chance that they probably could consider Haaland the potential long-term replacement. I guess my biggest thing is not really more towards that; it's more towards the money side of it. I'm with you on that. I do think the money seems ridiculous. I mean, for me, a good barometer is usually Stefan. Stefan Bossa. He knows his money stuff, and if he's cynical towards something, then yeah, I trust his financial knowledge a lot more than my own personally. And I do think it seems like I do think for Barcelona in particular, it seems like a PR game. And Laporta, we know he's the master of PR and spin and all that kind of stuff. And I do believe he's making a show of this because he kind of has to, really, because he's got back in and all that kind of stuff. He has to maybe be seen to be trying to impress Messi or something like that. But I can't for 1 second believe that Barca in particular are in for this. Though I do think, once again, you wouldn't be really doing your job, would you, as Mino Raiola and Alfie Haaland, as Haaland's representatives, not to meet up with these clubs? You have to, surely. You have to, even if it's just then to get a better deal for elsewhere. You have to do this.
Exactly.
Madrid. This is once again my cynical nature. Madrid, they're the only club I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about the rest. Madrid are the only one, just because Madrid, we hate to admit it, but that white shirt does have an awful lot of pull. And I wonder if I once again was playing devil's advocate, and I know this is not positivity hype train stuff, but I'm just being honest. If I was Madrid, I would be saying Messi's about to go soon. This is going to be our league, La Liga, for an awful long time with someone like you, and that's what I think they'll be saying. Whether that's going to have to pull or not. Go on, man.
Let me ask you a question then. So you say that to Haaland, you say Messi's leaving, Benzema's 33 years old, 34 years old, you're replacing him, you're going to be the king of this league. My question to you is, okay, Luka Modric is 33, 34, Casemiro's 30, Toni Kroos is 32.
Marcello's on his way out as well.
Varane has got a year left on his deal and he's refusing to sign a new deal. Ramos's contract expires this summer. Who's left? Who am I playing with? Who am I playing football with next season? And my next question after that will be, if you're going to tell me that you're going to go and sign 4 players, who are the 4 players that you're going to sign? And what guarantees do I have that you'll end up landing those players? What project
can they afford them? Yeah, after buying him, I mean, I totally agree. I 100% agree with all that. It doesn't make any sense because they've got a rebuild project bigger than, it's a big rebuild project, put it that way. It's a massive thing in front of them. And it almost doesn't even make sense for them to sign Haaland. They've got priorities elsewhere, I would argue. But then we know they're a Galactical club and they don't really tend to think in that way. But I mean, if we look at the Liga, they're currently, they are third, I think, from what last time I remember, the third. Atletico and Barca. Barca in particular seems to have found a bit of a reign of form at the moment, and they've got some good young players coming through. People are very excited by Pedri and obviously Ansu Fati and so on. So Barca maybe could be, in the long, they could be in a better place to rebuild post.
Barcelona have the footballing pitch because they can do what City can do. They can go, we don't have a number 9. There's nobody here who can play that position. That's your position. You walk into it and you play it every single week, right? And that will be from a footballing perspective, that will be high on Haaland's list of priorities, is to know that he's going to play, not to be constantly rotated, right? So Barcelona can make that pitch. They can also make the pitch that, well, we've got some top young players here. You look at Pedri, you look at Fati, you look at even Trincao, you look at Frankie de Jong. We're going to get Eric Garcia on a free. This is a new project. The issue that Barcelona have got, and again, I don't want to so from what I understand, and I wasn't in the meeting, right? So I don't know, but there's just the people that I've spoken to who might know these things. They're saying that Laporta made it perfectly clear that they want Haaland to relax at Dortmund for another year and come to Barcelona for the release clause next summer.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That makes a lot of sense for them, actually. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense given their financial situation, doesn't it?
Of course. So, I mean, for me, and the last thing I want to say on this, and I think it's also important to know your adversary, right? We know our adversary. He's Mino Raiola. Raiola likes top dollar. For him to get top dollar, he has to show one of the two Spanish giants as a credible alternative to City. Because in my very humble opinion, if he calls up Begiristain and he says Chelsea are offering X, Begiristain will go, well, the lad can go to Chelsea then. It's cool. We feel comfortable in the project that we've offered up. And if this isn't a footballing decision and he wants to go there, fine, off he goes. I think what can frighten City is the name Real Madrid and the name Barcelona. I think that's where, if City, for whatever reason, begin to believe or get a bit spooked that one of those two could do it, that might move the needle financially for City. And so for Mino, he needs one of those two to look like they're deadly serious about Haaland, because otherwise, Paris, forget it. Draw a line through it.
Yeah,
unless
I agree
we're going to say that. Another thing I want to ask you, Steve, and this is, I guess it kind of goes to the root of not my confidence about getting Haaland, because I'm somebody tweeted me yesterday going you said you were 85% confident. I am. What are you going to do? Sue me if he doesn't come? No.
Welcome to YouTube, man. Welcome to YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. I don't get anybody that knows me knows that I don't get involved in transfer hype trains. But other than Leo Messi, that's not my thing, right? I'm more of a guy. I trust Begiristain. When they signed Diaz, I was the guy that when he's a leader, everybody relax, and everybody was like, "Oh, we're gonna get cool."
I'm cynical, but I was there with you in that as well, and thankfully I got the videos to prove it. I mean, I do trust we get it right. We get it right. We pretty much always get it right.
So bearing that in mind, if Erling Haaland, and I don't think he'll do this, but just playing devil's advocate, if Erling Haaland goes, I want to go play at Barcelona or Real Madrid, mate, that's his problem. That's not my problem, because we are more or less the best team in Europe right now. We certainly have got one of the top 2 or 3 squads in Europe right now. We also have Pep Guardiola, right? So when I look at Madrid, when I look at Barcelona, they don't have those things. They have the history and the heritage that those clubs have and like to trumpet, but in the here and now, going to either of those clubs wouldn't be a footballing decision from Haaland. That would be a decision based on history or a decision based on money. And if he makes that call, well, so be it. The footballers, unfortunately, some of them not very smart. Yeah, some of them don't really care where they play as long as they get paid the most dough. You see what I mean? Players move to China because somebody out there is offering crazy amounts of money, and they go, well, I like money, and that's a lot more than somebody else is offering, so I'm going to go
obviously
there.
Madrid are they're still Madrid, so they're not even though obviously they're nowhere near as good as Man City are right now, there's always an argument to suggest that they'll be near the top of the table because they're Real Madrid. So I understand that, but I do think
absolutely,
yeah, they always will be there. But I guess there's a few more talking points from yesterday as well. And I've got my theories on this, but they are just theories. They're nothing more than an educated guess on this. But there's one particular bit of news yesterday, which came from eSport 3. It says, as well as Dortmund not selling Haaland for less than 150 million, there would be a further 40 million euros commissions should be added by the buying club for the player's father and other representatives. 40 million apparently would have to be the agent fees and all that kind of stuff. My initial reaction to that, by the way, was almost painting out how, I mean, this once again, it could be cynical and it could be miles wrong because it could be true. But my reaction to that was like, oh, Spanish press painting out how expensive this transfer is going to be. Seems like an awful good reason to turn around and say why it didn't happen, if that makes sense. That was my initial reaction to that. It's almost, I could be wrong and maybe I'm being too cynical, but no one expects this transfer to be cheap, I guess is the point I'm making. So the idea that, City don't expect to pay some agent fees and all that kind of stuff to someone like Mino Raiola and Haaland's dad or whatever, I think that's been played up a little bit. I don't think even Mino would expect 40 million euros on top of 150 million euro transfer fee personally. I mean, maybe I'm being naive there, but maybe they want it, but I don't sure he'd expect it. What was your take on that little tidbit of information anyway?
I believe it's true. I believe that, those figures aren't. What I do know is that 75 million pound release or 75 million euro release clause next summer certainly comes with the caveat of 20 million each for Mino and Alfie. Now, whether
that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, whether that
this year though,
to this year, where the rumor is that you would have to pay Dortmund 140 or 150 million euros to release him. I don't know is the honest answer. I mean, look, in the end, this is about money. And my feeling, keep coming back to it, mate, is I don't think anybody else can afford, whether it's 100 million as a buyout or it's 150 to Dortmund or it's 200. I don't think that Real Madrid have the liquidity or Barcelona have the liquidity to be able to say to Mino, to Alfie, we're doing it. It's on. I suspect Manchester City, when they meet with Mino and Alfie, will say, we're doing it. It's on. The season will end. We'll negotiate with Dortmund. The contract you're asking for, more or less, here you go. We'll give you that. Now, I don't want to be too like, there's just no way they can find that money, because Perez certainly has the capacity to find 150, 200 million if he really, really, really needs to. I think the wider issue at Madrid is just that I'm not sure he's got the appetite to do that, and not in a position where he's got a guy who he's paying 350, 400k a week to, even if he only has a year left on his deal. There's just, somebody has to convince me, and so far nobody's convinced me. I appreciate there's a lot of what I like to call history merchants or heritage monkeys, right? And I know that those guys like to jump up and down and go like, yeah, but it's Real Madrid and it's Barcelona. And I know that there's the tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists who think that like UEFA or the Spanish government are just going to secretly give Madrid. I've read that. I'm not making this up.
Can I interject that? Yes. Someone just mentioned that Madrid with government support could do it, mate. And I guess, do you know what? In the past, there definitely has been support. You got to bear in mind, though, we are in a pandemic at the moment. We're
in a global pandemic.
Every government is like looking at their bank balance, looking at the debt, the national debt, and going, we're not giving Madrid money right now to go sign a footballer. In my opinion, there's no way. That we're all trying to fight massive economic crises in all these countries. So maybe there might be something 10, 15 years ago, but right now, I'm sorry, there's no chance of government. It's not. There's no way. I mean, imagine the shit show, by the way, if a government was seen to be bailing out Madrid to sign a player during a pandemic. I think that's a step too far, even for, I can't see that personally. I feel like, there may have been something in the past with that, but for me right now, I'm not sure. I mean, and once again, people have mentioned as well the financial fair play thing about the idea of that being loosened, but that still does then rely on them to find money from somewhere, which is the point. Just because financial fair play could be loosened, it doesn't mean they have the money. That's the thing people aren't quite. You have to still find the money from somewhere. And once again, as you said, you have to go to a bank and ask for that money. And it's an awful lot of money they would have to ask for to get it. And I do agree. I'm cynical. I am. We've talked to this before, but I do agree. Like, there's I like the idea. Someone mentioned maybe the idea is once again is that they're involved now to try and drive the price up. Maybe this is a conspiracy to the idea that it maybe gets put back a year and never happens, and then Madrid and Barcelona have got more of a chance, maybe, because that's not a terrible theory.
I think it's worth their while to try and price City out of a move. I think it's worth
agree.
Everybody's while to try and do that. I think that the reality, though, will be that our lot can also play poker really well, and so they'll just sort of sit. I think right now what's gone on is either about spooking City or it's about spooking Dortmund, right? And that brings me to another of yesterday's talking points, which I'd like to know what you think about. So apparently Dortmund are saying not for sale, right? Or depending on which way you spin it, it's either not for sale or it's only for sale for offers in excess of 150 million euros. So, okay, fine. What do you think? You tell me what you think.
We're all long enough in the tube to know that kind of stuff is the most usual nonsense you'll ever hear in everywhere. I mean, I do think they want a lot of money, but obviously he's clearly for sale to the right. I mean, they quite literally agreed to sell him when they signed him by putting in a release fee clause. So, I mean, what does it say to sit around and say he's not for sale? But, well, he is for sale in 12 months, but he's not for sale right now for considerably more than we'd sell him for 12 months. It makes no sense. The mental leaps you'd have to make. Of course, they want a lot of money for him, but we all know that Dortmund have a history once again of turning around and going, this player isn't for sale. You could just Google Aubameyang not for sale. The other guy, Dembele not for sale, Dortmund, and you'll find headlines from their sporting director saying this player isn't for sale. Then you'll find also headlines 2 months later of them holding the shit up at their new clubs. Obviously, people turn around and go, look at Sancho and all that kind of stuff. One exception doesn't make up the rule, you know. And of course, the fact that they're already leaking the idea that he is available for sale for around 150 million euros, which I think, by the way, is a very, very affordable transfer for Manchester City. Take it down to sterling, and it's 127 million quid. Take it down to the Sancho sell-on fees worth a few million at least. You're looking at maybe 150, 120 million for someone like Haaland. I don't think City are sat there going, oh, we can't afford that. City, there's no way. I'm sorry. This idea as well, and one thing I keep seeing a lot is like, oh, it's a very young Man City transfer. It kind of is, but do you really think City are sat there talking to Haaland's agent thinking they're going to get him for 70 million? No one's thinking that. Like,
what do people mean when they say it's not a very Man City transfer?
I guess it's because we've gone above 65 million for, you know, we've had a few around there. But
sure,
the idea that...
Fine. But for me,
I guess,
what people lose sight of is that those deals that we do, those release clause deals, they're crazy, right? There's a reason why we do them and other clubs don't do them, because it's very difficult to find the liquidity to pay 69 million euros in one go to another football club, particularly during pandemic, right? So I agree in the sense that City don't do hype transfers. So what they've avoided, they avoided the Pogba hype train, they avoided the Frankie de Jong hype train, they avoided the Matthias de Ligt hype train. Whenever something gets a bit too hypey, City generally go, nah, you're all right. We've got other more economical options that we can look at. That doesn't mean that City don't pay big dough. Does it, like, the difference between, like, I often say this, that like when you go like, oh, City will pay 70 but they won't pay 100, how do you know that? Like, for me, 70 million pounds is, I can't even begin to like rationalize that in a regular human way. So to then turn around and go, oh, well, I know that this company that turns over billions will pay 70 but they won't pay off. What are we on about here, lads? Like, realistically, it's bloody expensive to sign top footballers, and City do it, and they have done it, and they will continue.
And you've got to bear in mind that we've not really seen a precedent of Manchester City going for a top class striker since Aguero. Quite literally, you know what I mean. In terms of, and that's the thing, is we need to bear in mind when we're looking at, you know, midfielders and fullbacks and all that kind of stuff. That's a very different kettle of fish to trying to sign your Aguero replacement, and those players instinctively cost more money. If we're all sat here thinking that Man City aren't aware of that, then we don't really then we're essentially doubting our board who know what they're doing, and they've proven that they know what they're doing repeatedly, time after time. And I guess Gabriel Jesus he's not a barometer of that, because he was signed as a young, exciting wonder kid, never signed as an established star. And I think it's fair to say it's not unreasonable to suggest that Manchester City know they're going to have to spend a lot of money to replace someone like Sergio Aguero, and the money will go up, because you're replacing Aguero. You're not replacing, with all due respect, you're not replacing Fernandinho, which is a very important part of the pitch, but it's not. The defensive midfielder.
Look at how much they paid for the Ferner replacement. Look at how much they paid for the Ferner replacement.
Exactly. And is it unreasonable to suggest that a striker is a superstar? Everyone knows that. A striker has that tax because goals win games. It's a cliche for a reason, but it's true. So you'd expect to pay for an equivalent level quality player in terms of importance in their position, double the amount as a defensive midfielder or a fullback. City aren't going to go, why is this player who's going to score as hundreds of goals potentially over the next several years going to cost twice as much as a fullback? They're going to go, of course he's going to cost twice as much as a fullback. So I think people turn around and look at it too literally and not actually see that Man City aren't stupid, and they are aware. And if we're linked to Kane, I was going to say, look at the players linked to. Go on.
You go first, and then I'll finish what I'm saying.
I was going to say, look at all these players that we're linked to, all these names that we're linked to, even Lautaro, even Joao Felix, even Lukaku, even Kane, or even the latest one, Andre Silva. These are all going to cost us an awful lot of money. They're all going to be broken transfer record fees. There's no way to use it. I mean, the fact that all these names are being linked suggests to me that City have already accepted to breaking the transfer record. So why wouldn't we break it and then some for Haaland? It just doesn't make sense to me.
They're ready to break it twice this summer. So people saying that they won't break it for Haaland are missing the point a little bit. I would argue the closest kind of analogy in terms of transfers for City that I can draw, and I'm not just saying it because we got him, is probably De Bruyne, right? Because De Bruyne was a player where that deal was massively competitive. Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain financially were basically at the table going, whatever City give you, we'll give you, right? They were there. And same with transfer fees. They were actively, and for Wolfsburg, it drove the price up. That Wolfsburg were upping that fee week on week because they were getting calls from Bayern and Paris going, we want to do this deal. We want to do this deal.
Yeah, of course.
And I think the thing that the approach that City took was a cold one. And it was, look, we'll negotiate with you, Wolfsburg, and we want the player, and we're not going anywhere, but it will be a negotiation. You won't, you won't tell us on Monday it's 65 and you'll get 65 on Friday. People can argue whatever they want about what fee was announced. Like it doesn't work like that. You have a negotiation, and at the end of it, you agree a fee. So there will be a dance, and there'll be a dance to be done with Dortmund. The only difference here between Kev and Erling is that Raiola's involved, and Raiola likes to do things publicly, and he likes to kind of, his part of his PR is absolutely that he keeps his clients in the media, which keeps their profile high, which keeps their value high. Like when people think about like the Pogba and him constantly talking about Pogba leaving United and going to Madrid or going to Juventus, that's because Pogba's been trash for United. Yeah,
of course.
And from a footballing point of view, you'd never look at that guy and go, "Oh yeah, he's a shoo-in to move for another world record fee to another top club." So he needs to keep that profile high. That's his job, and he does it well. So I'm not mad at him for trying to maximize this stuff. I just think that if you're going to get squeamish, if you're going to look at every news story, every time Mino opens his mouth, every time Sport or Mundo Deportivo get briefed, like you're going to drive yourselves crazy. It's not worth it. Look at your own club, look at the setup, look at the board, and ask yourself whether you've got a fighting chance. And if you believe you've got a fighting chance, good. And if you don't believe you've got a fighting chance, close the door and focus on another player.
Exactly, man. I have to bring up this comment from Jordan. Big love for the super chat, Jordan. Absolute legend. Jordan's theory is Haaland, I'd say, drop 100 to 220 million. The Sancho clause, and maybe a young player like Lucas Demecha, a German striker in form. Yeah, mate. I mean, I don't know how. It's very difficult. In my personal take on that, it's very difficult to always include players in transfers, and it rarely happens for a reason. But once again, he is a young German under 21 striker scoring a bunch of goals, and we also know they've shown interest before in Jaden Braff. The Sancho clause is a negotiation thing that will definitely be mentioned. It just will. It makes a lot of sense. And the idea of a young striker or a young player going to Dortmund where maybe they can make some profit, I don't think it's an unreasonable suggestion. Jordan, thank you so much. Do you think there's any chance maybe of City using one of their young players, Ahsan, in some kind of negotiation?
I think it's hard because I don't know if Dortmund with a player whose valuation is quite that high, and because of the fact that we're in a pandemic, I would argue that they will just want cash. They'll want hard cash.
Probably agree, yeah. I mean, it's a nice bonus, but I agree, yeah.
Exactly. What we have, though, and he makes a great point, is that we have players of value that will end up selling this summer, and not first-team players. I'm talking players like Nemechka, who will bring some money in. And I think
10-15 million even potentially, because he scored a whole bunch of goals, and he's a German under 21. That's what scored 9 in 11, I think, as from under 21s. So he's got monetary value. And you've got obviously Angelino's going to go. There'll be some other young players that will sell as well. We do have the money for this, don't we?
I'm not worried about the money, and I'm not worried about City's bottle. And I think that those two things should reassure anyone in the audience who is like me, looks at the board and looks at the people running the club and goes, no, I trust them. They know what they're doing. It's cool, And they've made so much noise about this Haaland transfer that all I can say is if and when City go, actually, we're not doing this anymore, we'll know within 2 hours or 3 hours. It'll be public, and I'll be on a video with you because I'll front anybody who wants to come and fight me. I don't think City will bottle it. To be fair, I don't think City are going to bottle it like this time round, and I don't think have they ever bottled a transfer. Let me think.
It's things have changed. I would say. I don't think we've ever jumped out. I think things have changed.
Yeah, I think that. Would you have paid? So if I look across all the ones where they walked away, right? Dani Alves, your man was 34, right? There was obviously going to be a ceiling to what they were going to pay him. Alexis Sanchez.
I mean, once again, I don't think he even walked away. I'm pretty certain his wife was like, oh yeah, Paris is pretty beautiful. I'd rather live there. And he was like, all right, they're giving me loads of money. And it's one of those things where they were like, well, he got an offer that was an awful lot more money. And it just
fair point. It's a very fair point.
I mean, once again, I feel like Jorginho, I don't really think we bottled. I think we decided a price for, and I feel like they just, and Sarri obviously going at Chelsea definitely helped that time, for obvious reasons. And they just offered a little bit more money. But I guess it depends what it means by bottling it, really, doesn't it? Because if it's just not going to not going above the limit that we've set out of a player, then that's not unreasonable.
You know how I describe bottling it? I describe it as a player who I think they've undervalued, right? So for me, it's more a personal thing that I'd say they've bottled it. So, for example, if this summer Dortmund want 150, Mino and Alfie want 20 each, and the kid wants 350 a week, and City do the maths and go, we're not doing it, they bottled it. Because
I agree.
The footballer is worth every penny. When I look back over the ones that they either didn't get or they seemed to walk away from, none of them were bottle jobs. If anything, most of them were overpriced as they were. Jorginho was never what he went for or what he was being touted for. Alexis Sanchez was never worth 450, 500,000 pound a week. Fred,
I heard it's higher than that from someone within the game as well. Yeah. I heard it's even higher than that. Genuinely, he got an eye-watering amount of money that people haven't quite realised how much they messed up United on that. And this is from a United fan within the game that I know, and an agent within the game, a United fan who was like, what my club done kind of attitude to it. That he over $500,000 a week, I've heard, which is insane amounts of money. And of course, he went, no. Someone said maybe Van Dijk. maybe we didn't get that right in looking back in hindsight, but it didn't turn out too badly in the end, did it? I guess
that's a fair shout. Yep. That is. But I'll say one thing that that's a hindsight one that you can definitely hindsight it and go, probably bottled it. But at the time,
that's fair. I'd say
I'd seen City make a mug of Van Dijk when he was at Southampton. Yeah, we slapped Southampton with Van Dijk in their back line. So for me at that point, I was sort of looking at it and going, I kind of did the Khaldoon thing, and of course,
no one thought he was 70 million. No one did. I mean, anyone who says that otherwise, I mean, fair play to Liverpool and Edwards. He got it right. They got it right massively. They absolutely nailed it. But I honestly don't think anyone thought he was. Defenders weren't worth 70 million then. That's the thing that you've got to bear in mind. Like, the market has changed now to what it was then. It already has changed. It's been a few years already, but it'd be very unfair to say Manchester City bottled it then, just more that they looked at it and gone, that's a lot of money for a guy playing for Southampton, with all due respect, I don't think that was unreasonable either. Sorry to interrupt, Ahsan, just another question, mate. Got to jump onto the super chat. Big Johnny's saying, I think the only thing we don't have cartel teams like Real Madrid and Barcelona is the tradition that leads to the brand of the player improving. That's Johnny's opinion, mate. I would say, obviously, that's probably fair because obviously Manchester City, there is a reluctance to put our players from some media on the same pedestal. I don't think that's a gender stuff. I think that's probably true. Do you think that's a fair comment, man?
I think I can see that. I can definitely see that. I think that, I don't think that we haven't had a Ballon d'Or winner, right? So if you're that way minded, but then my opinion is you got to win the Champions League to win the Ballon d'Or. So I think if we win the Champions League, we'll have somebody in the Ballon d'Or conversation in that season. I get the brand value thing. The only thing I would say is that I'd be very careful about applying the last decade in football to the next decade in football. Now, maybe I'm being naive, and maybe all of the heritage clubs will miraculously grow money trees in their back gardens and will fix themselves, or maybe they will get state aid or whatever, and it'll figure itself out. But I'm a bit wary about that. I think the reason, for example, for the change in the Champions League is that the heritage clubs want automatic access to the money, because it's very difficult for them, if they don't have access to that money, to compete with new money clubs. Yeah. And they need that money to sustain I love saying this word because I can't say it, hegemony in their league, right? They are the dominant. They are the dominant forces in their league, and they want to remain there, and for that hegemony to stay in place, right? They need the money, and so they need the Champions League money to only go to them. So I think they are nervous, because I think they do fear. I think particularly Madrid and Barcelona, I think they're looking at what's happened in Italy, and they're going, we don't want to go that way. We don't want to end. And I imagine La Liga is looking at itself in a general sense and going, we don't want to end up there. We don't want to end up in a situation where we become completely uncompetitive against the Premier League. But unfortunately...
Ahsan, what do you make of the news that apparently Cheeky is in England today? Have you heard anything to suggest that? Not Cheeky, sorry. Cheeky's course in England. I mean, Mino Raiola and Alfie and Haaland are flying to London, apparently, to meet up with loads of English clubs. Do you think there's anything in that at all? Do you think it's true?
If the journalists are saying it, then it's happening, because Mino and his office will be telegraphing what they're doing right now. So if they're in England, then... If the media are saying that they're in England, then they'll be in England. Hey, let me ask you a question. Whose box is Alfie sitting in on Tuesday night? Is he with the Dortmund delegation? Is he with the City side? Or is he trying to find a neutral spot in the ground?
He's just signed between them like that, and just like he's got the Dortmund directors in his right ear, the Cheeky in his left ear, man. That's
next question. Is Mino going to be there?
Oh wow. He will be there. No, knowing him, he won't be. He'll be enigmatically distant, and then he'll be spotted chatting to Laporta again or something like that, or maybe Juventus or something like that. I don't know. Who knows, man? That's what he'll be doing. There's a few more super chats. Thank you so much, guys. Ash saying, great chat, guys. 9320 pods are always top drawer, Ahsan. And Ash is absolutely correct, by the way. If you don't know 9320 podcast, where have you been for one? Go and follow him on Twitter at 9320 pod and check the link in the description as well. I'll put a link to the actual 9320 player as well over there. So follow him. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He said, could I review see a situation where Mbappe, if he becomes available, do a deal for him? Now, Ahsan, during this video as well, by the way, there's been some reports on the aggregators about City retaining a desire to sign Kylian Mbappe, along with other top European clubs, and we're ready to break the bank, allegedly. I'm cynical towards this, if I'm being honest.
Who's reporting it?
But this has come from La Parisienne via Sport Witness. I don't know much. I don't know much about the journalist or anything like that. I've just seen that based off Twitter. I feel like Mbappe's always had his heart set on Madrid, but and I don't really. I feel like City probably talked to his camp before, and he's probably been like, nah. But what do you reckon about Mbappe? I'd like him, by the way.
So Madrid can't sign Mbappe and Haaland, can they?
No. I want him to go for Mbappe, by the way. I want him to go for Mbappe because then it means. I want because then basically, wrong comment there. Because then it basically means we've got a free run at Haaland. So maybe City are doing this thing where we're talking about Mbappe, knowing that Madrid will go, well, these are ours, back off. Maybe we're reverse flexing or something.
City would sign Kylian Mbappe in a heartbeat if he readjusted his wage demands. But as long as he continues to want, I think it's 36 million a year or something like that, he ain't going to be on City's radar. The one thing that I would say is that I've been quite cynical of the idea that Madrid would pay him that sort of money, that they would pay.
For people, by the way, that's 750 grand a week for people not doing the maths there. That's an awful lot of money. Yeah. That's insane.
It's not something like City do have a wage structure, and they won't, other than Leo Messi, they ain't breaking that wage structure for a single other player. Maybe Neymar they'd do it for if they were actually going to sign him, but they're not going to do that.
No.
So I don't think that the Mbappe conversation is a conversation beyond if his wage demands were readjusted and if Paris's owners were prepared to do business with City's owners, and if the transfer fee was at the sort of price that we're talking about for Haaland at 150-ish, I think that City would consider it. I think the big thing is, and again, if I get egg on my face this summer, I realize the more of these videos that I do, the more I begin to realize that these things are permanent, right? And
what I would say is they don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. So people get bored and they move on to something else. So I've said stuff before. And
don't ever place a bet based on anything I've said on a podcast or in a video. That'd be pretty.
Listen responsibly, I would say.
Yes, exactly. Listen responsibly. No, look, what I believe is that City have made a decision that this summer they're going to sign one of the top forwards in the world to replace Sergio Aguero. And
I agree.
To do that, they have to spend a lot of money on transfer fees, a lot of money on wages, and it will be very competitive. Whether it's Haaland, whether it's Mbappe, whether it's Messi, whether it's Harry Kane, whether it's João Felix, whether it's Lautaro Martinez, like that list, Danny Ings ain't on that. For all those names I just reeled off, the elite, what we would consider to be the elite nines in world football right now. Oh, that's the other thing. I don't think that Marty will mind me saying this. I talked to Mike Perrin via email couple of days ago, and he was like, City want a traditional number 9 this summer. They don't want a false 9. They want a traditional number 9. So you can rule out João Felix immediately. He's not on that list anymore. It's very
makes sense to me.
Harry Kane, Haaland, Lukaku, Lautaro. There's your 4 elite.
There was some stories about that, actually. Jose Alvarez, obviously, who's in Aguero's camp, so he does get some information every now and then. He said City allegedly are pressing for Harry Kane. I wouldn't say pressing, but I would interpret this as interested in Harry Kane after seeing the difficulties, in inverted commas, that exist around moving for Haaland. And Dominic King at the Mail had an exclusive saying City are still keen on Haaland, but have other options, including Andre Silva at Frankfurt, who is a striker as well, and Lautaro Martinez of Inter Milan. I think this all feeds into what we're saying. Even though Martinez isn't necessarily a traditional number 9, he's the number 9 in the way that I can say, not quite Aguero, but he's not a false 9 in the way that Joao Felix is.
No, he's a finisher.
So, he's a finisher.
Lautaro's a finisher. So I think that maybe rather than looking at traditional number 9 as just tall and big, we should maybe look at it as more somebody who is a penalty area specialist, somebody who inside the penalty area is scoring. So
just comment quickly. I don't think he needs the job, Big Johnny. I don't think he's going to need a job, man.
I think the 20 million commissions is just right.
Imagine that 20 million and a job. That would be nice. I tell you what, get him back on the books. Get him as a backup right back or something like that. Do as a centre midfield or something. There we do. Maybe he's the backup DM that we need after all that. Alfie and Haaland back in a Man City shirt, man. Big Johnny, thank you so much. He was in this team. He could do a job. You know what I mean? Anyone could. Go on.
Listen, let me ask you a question. You're am I wrong in thinking you're actually quite close to Spurs? That you know some people in and around Spurs, or is that me dreaming a little bit? My question's about Harry Kane. What I want to know is, because I can't quite put my finger on the pulse of. I have
known people around Spurs before, but mainly because of Kyle Walker, but not necessarily. I can't really say I know fully what's going on with Spurs now. My thing with Harry Kane will always be cynicism, because I do think City are interested. I definitely believe he's a player that they'll take in a heartbeat. Personally, I don't think he's our number 1 choice, but I personally, this is just my guess, is that we know how much Guardiola values Harry Kane since he said the Harry Kane team. You know, we know he literally looks at Spurs and he looks at them as Harry Kane. And rightfully so. Obviously, they've got some quality players as well, but I do think our interest is genuine. I really do think our interest is genuine. Having said that, I think it's genuine to the sense that only if we don't get someone like Haaland personally. What do you make on Haaland, man? Like, because his name does keep coming up. Is he part of this dance? You know, is he just a name being thrown around, or do you think he's personally on the list of players that we could go for?
Who, Kane?
Yes.
Kane is on the list.
Is he realistic? Is he realistic, though, in your opinion? Because obviously the money.
I mean, I think what I'm trying to get a sense on, and what I'm confident about, and maybe I shouldn't be, is that I feel as though, not that it's a money's no object summer, but I feel as though it's a summer where I look at this politically, right? And I feel as though it's a summer where Abu Dhabi might just flex their muscle and go, we're going to be a super club and we're going to show you that we're a super club. And part of that is that this summer, we're going to do a madness in the transfer market that only normally you would associate with Madrid or Barcelona. And I think that the difference between previous dances like this and this one is that the players are worth it this summer. Whether you talk about Mbappe or you talk about Haaland, you're talking about 2 guys, or Harry Kane. I'm going to put Kane in that. You're talking about 3 guys whose footballing ability puts them in the absolute elite. And age profile is an interesting one, but for me, Harry Kane isn't too old. I know people have said he won't have a resale value. City don't really care about that. They didn't have Aguero. Where's the resale value? You're giving him away for free. Vinny, like when you actually go through the list, if you're a big top club, you're not realizing, because the top players, you want to keep them. We don't
care about that, do we? Exactly. I think it's really proven. We're not bothered. We'll let him. To be honest, I think we kind of like letting him leave on a free and going, job done, guys. Well done. Give him a big celebration. And he's almost a pride in it. Like, we don't need to sell you. You're done when we say you're done with you. I know that sounds really arrogant, but it is a case of, we're like, no, you'll have your best years here, and then you'll stroll off into the sunset, and everyone will be happy. Yeah. And no one else will get to experience you in the way that we did. Like, Sane is the exception in that sense, but then, you know, there was obviously extraneous variables.
He had to run his contract down.
Yeah, but once again, you're right. He'd have to do that. I mean, I don't think City, we're not bothered. If Kane came in and we had 5 years of him and he scored 150 goals, City would be like, I don't care. It was worth every single penny, because he would have won us titles and all that kind of stuff. So resale value is, City never think about that. maybe it's like a nice little boost for someone like Haaland. If I don't know, if we signed Haaland and his Mino started going peak Mino and he started to push for a move, at least we can go then, well, all right, he can go, but you're going to give us 250 to 300 million. It's not the worst thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't think that's
I
what
want to say
really
one thing
about.
else. I want to say one thing else about Lukaku. Christophe Terreur, who is a Belgian journalist, is very, very, very well connected with all of the Belgian international players.
Yeah.
And he made a mockery of the reports that Lukaku would leave Inter Milan this summer. He said the boy is in love with Milan, in love with his life there, and is I think he said something like he's enjoying his football in a way he never has previously, and he can feel that he's improving under Conte. So you kind of put all of that together, and I wouldn't use a pen to draw a line through his name, but I've certainly got a pencil and a line through his name for the moment, and I'm waiting to hear something that would make me change my mind on that. I do think I said in the first video that we did that City have more or less said to Haaland that it's him that they want, that they're not going to move for anybody else, and that they haven't spoken to other agents and made other offers. I stand by that. I don't think City have made an offer to Harry Kane's agent. I don't think they've made an offer to Lukaku's agent. I don't think they've made an offer to Lautaro's agent. The only offer that they will have made will be to Haaland's.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I agree with Rohan. Let's just hope Haaland comes to Man City. Big love for Rohan for the super chat. And there's another one as well that's come through from Burnout Jack. Burnout, thank you so much, man. Said, this is City's transfer to lose purely from a financial standpoint. The Spanish clubs recently lost a court case about state funding.
Yes,
did they not? Yeah, exactly right. So that puts to bed this idea that the state are going to jump in and give them the money, especially once again when you add in all these variables. I mean, literally, there's a pandemic going, and there's no way that the state are going to be going against that court case and then going against literally their people, their public, who, you know, it just makes no sense whatsoever.
It's not even funny.
No, it's awful. Yeah.
Yeah. And then whenever I laugh, I stop myself because I'm like, I know what's going on in the world right now. It's not even funny to suggest with a straight face the Spanish government would hand a bunch of money to Real Madrid or Barcelona to buy, or the Catalonian government would hand a bunch of money to Barcelona to buy a footballer, or UEFA would hand that money to Real Madrid or Barcelona to buy a footballer. That's just not how these things work.
Because tone deaf as UEFA and FIFA and all that can be sometimes, they're not, even they can't be this tone deaf. I mean, the whole world is currently changed, and that does play into these things, and it does play into expectations. It does play into the usual way that these clubs could have worked in the past. Court case, it's not gonna be that way, in my opinion. Having said that, they could find some money from somewhere, but it ain't the same. It ain't gonna be the same, Bruin. It's gonna be definitely difficult. Ahsan, man, thank you so much for joining me yet again for another fascinating chat. Man. It's good fun though, isn't it? It's good fun. I'm loving it. And everyone else is loving it as well. Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's been watching, by the way. Once again, I've got to say, I've got to recommend, go and listen to the 9320 podcast. It's absolutely fantastic. Follow at 9320 pod. I'll put it in the comments right now live. Everyone go and give them a follow because they, all the lads over there, from Ahsan to Steve Tudor to Lloyd Scragg to Stefan and Howard Hockin and Joe Butterfield as well, and everyone else has been on that. They're all absolutely ace. They all big blues. They know their stuff, and I would recommend it heartily. And I'm sure, you all know about Ahsan by now as well. We won't be seeing the last of this face on this channel, I'm almost certain. Ahsan, thank you so much, mate.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, mate.
Guys, catch you all in a bit. See you later.